Today we're going to be diving deep into the book The Art of Rest by Claudia Hammond. And before we get into the top 10 most restorative activities, I want to share some of the research that really kind of sets the stage. So Hammond and her team conducted a massive study with over 18,000 people across, I think it was over 135 countries. They use what they call the rest test to find out how many people are actually resting. And participants were asked questions like, how much rest do they get? How much rest would they like? And what activities make you feel more rested? And what they also measured was their personality, their well-being, and even their tendencies for daydreaming or mind wandering. The results were really striking because around 2/3 of people feel like they aren't getting enough rest, and there's a notable difference between men and women. Women reportedly are getting 10 minutes less rest on average than men every day. It's not a huge gap minute by minute, but over time it clearly adds up, and it's one reason so many people feel constantly drained. So based on this research, Hammond highlights the top 10 activities that people tend to find most restorative. We're going to go through each one, why it works, and how you can apply it in a realistic way in your life. At the end, I'll share my 80-20 framework so you can start putting these ideas into practice immediately and getting the most out of it. So let's start at number 10, which is mindfulness. So what they suggest is potentially doing something like mindful eating a raisin where you get a single raisin, and instead of just eating it, you look at it, you notice its colours, you feel its textures, its shapes, you hold it in between your fingers and feel like the weight of it and what it feels like the surface. You smell it, you take in like the subtle scents, then you put it in your mouth. You might try and taste it but without eating it, explore the textures with your tongue, and basically this is supposed to take about 10 minutes in all. It sounds unusual, and it kind of really forces your mind to slow down and focus on single experiences instead of just rushing through things. The takeaway of this mindfulness isn't about doing something complicated, it's about being a bit more present and fully present in noticing details and engaging your senses. Another simple mindfulness tool is breathing exercises like box breathing that works with a inhale 4 seconds, a hold for 4 seconds, an exhale for 4 seconds, and hold for 4 seconds again. You can just repeat this for a few minutes. It's a great way to calm your nervous system down, reduce your stress, and help reset after a negative or an overwhelming experience. The book points out that breathing like this isn't just a calm in the moment. It can counteract some of the physical impacts of stress, help regulate mood, and improve focus and attention. So meditation is not about just like being still, it's about mindfulness. You can include it in short meditation practices, but it's important to note you don't have to be perfectly still. The key is noticing your thoughts, your feelings, your surroundings without judgment, whether you're sitting, walking, or even washing the dishes. It's less about emptying your mind and more about giving it space and attention. Research shows that consistent mindfulness practices can actually help reduce depression and anxiety, help manage chronic pain and cravings, improve your memory, attention, and your mood. It could even boost your immune system. Even just a few minutes a day can actually create a noticeable shift in how you feel and how you respond to life's challenges. Where in the day could you practice mindfulness? Could it be during a meal, a short walk, or even when you're having your cup of coffee? If you tried slowing down, like with the raisin exercise or box breathing for a few minutes, what difference might it make you feel and how will it make you feel? At number 9, we've got watching TV, which can be restorative, but only if it's used in the right way. The book points out that a lot of people, especially those who feel anxious or stressed, use TV as a more emotional escapism. It's a way to distract themselves from worries, deadlines, or uncomfortable feelings. Lonely people in particular are more likely to binge watch because it provides company, or at least a sense of presence when there isn't anyone around. But the problem is, while it can feel restful in a moment, watching TV can actually have negative side effects, and I think we've all felt that. Some people, it can become addictive, it can lower our overall well-being, increase feelings of depression, and often leads to staying up later than intended, which cuts into our sleep and leaves us feeling more drained the next day. The book suggests aiming for less than 2 hours of TV a day and trying to avoid watching it too late at night and trying to not watch it in bed. This helps you get the benefit of rest without the cost of reduced sleep or mental fatigue. Think of your TV as a tool. Use it intentionally. Choose a show that you generally feel like it relaxes you. Watch it in a communal space so you're with people if possible, and even set timers so it doesn't just take over your evening. Notice how you currently use your TV. Is it deliberate? Is it in a way to rest? Or is it distraction from stress or loneliness? Could you experiment with cutting your viewing time or moving it out of your bedroom and see how it changes how you feel? Number 8, we've got daydreaming. So daydreaming is one of these activities that can be both restorative and draining depending on the content. If your daydreams are positive and enjoyable, they can be a powerful way to rest your mind, spark creativity, and let yourself mentally explore without pressure. But if your daydreams are negative or stressful, they can actually keep you more stuck in rumination. The book highlights that people who ruminate more tend to experience higher stress and health issues because their mind keeps replaying stressful scenarios day in, day out. If you notice your mind drifting into negative thoughts, you can use mindfulness techniques like we talked about earlier to shift your state. You could even do like a body scan meditation where you focus on each part of your body and notice sensations without judgment. Or even a slightly challenging mental task like counting in increments of 17 from starting from like a random number. This encourages your brain to kind of focus on something else instead of ruminating on those negative things. If you've got a lot on your mind before bed as well, you could even start writing a to-do list. This can help you fall asleep actually a lot quicker. Research cites that in the book that people who make a list fall asleep about 9 minutes quicker on average. And if that list has 10 or more things on it, then you can actually benefit even more with roughly about 15 minutes of falling asleep quicker. This simple habit can reduce mental clutter, ease anxiety, and improve your rest. Notice what your daydreams are like today. Are they positive and restorative, or do they feel like they're keeping you stuck in a stressful state? Try experimenting with a short mindfulness exercise, a body scan, or a simple mental math challenge to shift your mind and see what makes you more restful. If it's in the evening, you're carrying out a lot of tasks in your head, try writing a to-do list before bed and just see how it affects your sleep. At 7, we have hot baths. Hot baths are one of those simple, practical ways to improve rest and recovery. The book points out that timing really does matter. Having a bath maybe about 1 to 2 hours before bed really helps lower your core body temperature afterwards, which this then puts your body into a more relaxed state and makes it easier to fall asleep. Warmer showers can also help, but they just aren't as effective as a proper soak in a bath. So how do the warm baths help? With What it does, it temporarily reduces your cortisol levels, which actually reduces your stress hormone. This reduces pain, improves mobility, and actually puts you in a more positive mood. Spending about 30 minutes in a nice warm bath usually does the trick, and this is where you get the most benefits. Studies show that taking a hot bath before bed helps us fall asleep on average about 7 minutes faster. Pair it with some quiet time, reading, or some gentle music for maximum effort. When could you add a hot bath or a foot soak into your evening routine? Notice how it might affect your mood, your ability, your sleep. Could the small window of calm really going to help you drift off more easily? Number 6 in the book, we've got walking. Walking is one of the most popular kind of restorative activities that people tend to do. 38% of people in the study actually selected it as one of their top 3 of rested kind of activities. It's simple, it's accessible, and yet incredibly effective. Walking helps reduce depression and improve your mood. In our fast-paced world, it gives us actually the chance to slow down, become a bit more grounded, and basically take our time. When we move under our own steam, walking can actually free the mind and spark creativity and allow ideas to flow. By doing something physical, your brain has to shift focus from constant thinking to noticing your body's movements and its exertion. This helps quieten the mental chatter and makes your walk feel more restful. If you walk with someone side by side, it actually encourages empathy and cooperation with that person. You're moving together, sharing space without the need for structured conversation. What they found out was multiple shorter walks throughout the day are more restorative than actually having one long one. So walking not only restores your mind while you move, but because you're exerting the energy as well, it's easier to rest afterwards, giving you a second boost of restoration. Think about your day. Could you add a short walk somewhere, alone or even with someone? Notice how your mind and your body feel during and after the walk. Do you feel calmer, more creative, or even more connected? At 5, we've got doing nothing. It might sound a bit strange, but it's surprisingly restorative. Even small micro breaks throughout the day, like standing up to stretch for 30 seconds, or grabbing a coffee, or just pausing just to breathe, can actually make a big difference. You can feel more refreshed, and returning to work, you become more productive as well. After a stressful or busy period, people often prefer to be alone. This quiet time allows the mind to recover without having to focus on anyone else, and it helps recharge mental energy more effectively. Research shows that doing something boring just for like 15 minutes can actually improve productivity and creativity when you move on to your next task. Similarly, if you pause after completing an activity and do nothing, it actually helps with your memory and retention. Your brain is able to have time to consolidate the information better. So, take multiple small breaks during the day, even 30 seconds here and there. It could be a few minutes. Avoid stimulation during these breaks, so no social media, no screens, just focus on doing nothing. Simply sit there quietly or just notice your surroundings. When could you insert a micro break today and involve doing nothing? Could you stand, stretch, or just pause for a few minutes without actually any distractions? Notice how your mind feels before and after. At number 4, we have listening to music. So listening to music can be incredibly restorative, but it's not about making you smarter. Sorry, Mozart. It doesn't actually boost your IQ. What research has shown is that it all depends on what you're listening to and what you enjoy. so that if you listen to any music that you enjoy for about 10 minutes or so, it can actually prime your brain for 15 minutes of creative work. So it's less about the genre and more about the enjoyment and your mental state. The best way to match your music to your mood. So let's say you're in a good mood, you can pretty much listen to anything you like. If you're in a bad mood, stick to calmer music. It's the same if you're stressed. Calm music's going to help lower your tension. After exercise, calm music actually helps with the body's recovery. If you're depressed or anxious, try and avoid those negative or sad music. Anxious people, it's best to listen in groups with friends and people around you to kind of help you feel more supported. While social listening has its place, the book notes that we feel most relaxed and most people benefit from actually listening to music alone, allowing your mind to fully engage with the music without distraction. Pick 10 minutes during your day to listen to music that matches your current state. Use it as a mini reset. It could be after a task, before a meeting, or just to pause and recharge. Notice how music affects your state of mind. Could you experiment with a 10-minute solo music break today? What kind of music leaves you feeling most restored? At 3, we have being alone. Being alone is one of the most restorative activities in the book, and there are a few findings here that really stood out. One of them is the higher the quality of your relationships, the more comfortable and content you are at being alone, interestingly. Alone time doesn't replace connection. It actually works best when you already feel supported in your relationships. If someone is feeling especially sad and lonely, their cortisol levels tend to be a lot higher. That means alone time can feel very different depending on your emotional state. Chosen solitude can be restorative. Unwanted isolation can increase stress. That distinction really does matter. So in the book it states a few things about 29% of people walk alone, which links back to walking being one of the most restorative activities. Interestingly, most people spend the majority of their alone time at home, but when they're asked where they would want to spend their alone time, the most common answer is out in nature. So there's often a gap between what we do by default and what actually restores us. One of the most useful takeaways here is to block out time to be alone on purpose. Not scrolling, not half working, not filling the space with noise. Just time where you decide this is mine. Ideally away from technology, social media and screens, and if possible somewhere that feels calming or open. How do you usually experience being alone? Is it chosen or accidental? If you were to plan alone time intentionally this week, where would you want to be? At home or somewhere outside, maybe? Somewhere in nature? What would make it feel genuinely restorative rather than just empty time? And number 2, we've got spending time in nature. So spending time in nature has a really powerful effect on how we feel, think and work. What's interesting is that you don't have to be in nature for it to help. Simply seeing nature can boost productivity. Sitting by a window with a pleasant view, or even looking at a picture or a painting of a natural landscape, has been shown to improve focus and output. Even having something colourful in your surroundings can actually give yourself a little bit more energy during the day. Bright colours in natural environments can actually help boost energy and mood. The book also explains something subtle but important. The more a landscape repeats, the more we tend to enjoy it. Think of a woodland full of trees, fields of flowers, or a wave on a beach. Because the patterns repeat, our brain doesn't have to work hard to interpret what it sees. This reduces the cognitive load, which allows your mind to relax. It's rest without switching off. You don't need hours outdoors. Research shows that you just need as little as 10 minutes in nature. It's enough to start you feeling the benefits. That could be a short walk, standing outside during a break, or just sitting somewhere for a few minutes. It's very easy to fit it into your day if you're intentional. If you can't get outside easily, bring nature closer. Sit near a window, add plants, or use nature images where you work. Even small changes can make a difference. When was the last time you intentionally spent time around nature? Could you take 10 minutes to have a nature break this week, outside or even by a window? And notice how it affects your energy and your focus. And finally, we've got number one, which is reading. Reading came out as the number one most restful activity. And when you look at the research, it's easy to see why. On average, readers live around 2 years longer than non-readers. That alone should make us pause for a moment. Reading helps reduce rumination, those repetitive kind of looping thought patterns that often keep us stressed or awake at night. When you're absorbed in a book, your attention is gently pulled away from your own worries and into another world. Interestingly, reading is actually more arousing to the brain than a tricky puzzle. But this is where it all becomes restful. When you stimulate the brain through reading and then stop, that drop in stimulation signals the body to relax, making it easier to wind down and fall asleep. There's a few stats about reading versus screens at night. The difference between reading and watching TV before bed is striking. 38% of people who watch TV in bed report very poor sleep. 39% of people who read in bed say they sleep very well. Same time period, completely different outcomes. Reading is as effective as Tai Chi, even when it comes to reducing your cortisol levels and creating a sense of rest. That's a powerful comparison. One is physical, meditative movement kind of practice. The other is sitting still with a book. Reading also helps strengthen social and emotional benefits. So regular readers, especially novel readers, tend to feel less lonely and show greater empathy. Fiction allows us to step into other people's lives, emotions, and perspectives. And over time, that changes how we relate to others. If you're looking for one small change that dramatically improves your rest and sleep, replace screens with reading before bed. Even a short reading window can have an outsized benefit. If you took everything from this book and stripped it back to what actually makes the biggest difference, it comes down to three things. Number one, it's got to be reading. It's the most effective form of rest in the book. It calms the mind, reduces stress, improves sleep, and at the same time you're learning, thinking, and expanding on how you see the world. You get rest and growth together, which is rare. Even a short amount each day has a bigger impact than most people realise. Second, walking in nature. This is one of the simplest ways to reset your nervous system. It slows you down in a world that's constantly pushes speed. Being outside, especially around repeating natural patterns like trees, fields, give your brain a break without you having to try. Short walks are enough. You don't need hours. 10 minutes is enough to change how you rest for the rest of the day. Third, boredom. Doing nothing on purpose, no phone, no music, no input. This is where real recovery happens. Stress only fully clears when the mind isn't being fed something new. Boredom helps settle the nervous system, improves memory, and makes it easier to think clearly again. It's uncomfortable at first, but that's usually a sign that it's doing its job. If you focus on these three things, reading regularly, short walks in nature, and small windows of intentional boredom, you cover most of the benefits this book talks about without overcomplicating rest. Everything else is useful, These are the ones that move the needle the most.